Hello, and welcome to Single Scoops. I'm your host, JR, and I'm joined by my co-host, OldR.
Howdy.
And today, we're going to talk about TVXQ's Banjun drama, Dangerous Love. As a warning, there will be spoilers. OldR, why don't you tell us some basic info about this show?
Dangerous Love, also known as We Hom Han Sarang, is a 45-minute-long Banjun drama that aired on SBS TV's Sunday is Good on March 12, 2006. If you haven't seen Banjun drama before, it's usually a short drama with a surprising twist at the end, usually comedic, but sometimes frightening or simply unexpected. Before getting into the plot, I just wanted to make a few notes about what was going on with TVXQ, also known as Donbonshinki, around this time. First, this was in 2006, and all 5 of the members were still together. Also, they had released their second album, Rising Sun, a few months prior in 2005. Finally, the group was involved in multiple acting projects around this time, including another Banjun drama. At this point, they were still growing into the name Donbonshinki. Moving on, let's talk about the plot of Dangerous Love. It's about 2 storylines that involve dangerous love. It starts with all 5 members doing a photo shoot outside of a home in a remote area. They end up staying the night, but nobody's sleeping. Junsu convinces Changmin to sneak out to play soccer, but both wind up falling down a hill and get knocked out. They're rescued by Hibon, a girl who Junsu immediately falls in love with. She takes care of them while they recover and claims she has no idea they're members of a famous group. But something about her seems off to Changmin, whose concerns are ignored by Junsu, seemingly thinking he's jealous. Turns out, she has a secret that puts them in danger. Meanwhile, the same night that Junsu and Changmin snuck out, Jaejung encountered Yuno in their van acting strangely. The leader hands his bandmate a fanfic about them that was printed out with its pages clipped together, as is customary for fanfic readers, as we all know. Yuno tells Jaejung it's a story about them in that kind of a relationship, and he should read it. He quickly flees the scene, and Jaejung proceeds to read it. By the time he finishes, he wonders if Yuno actually has feelings for him. The leader continues being weird the next day, which causes Jaejung to overthink every interaction with him. Even though both stories have comedic moments, Junsu and Changmin's storyline has some serious moments. Meanwhile, Jaejung and Yuno's storyline leans more towards being lighthearted. And while all this is going on, Yuchun is losing his mind worrying about his members. At one point, he becomes a confidant of both Yuno and Jaejung and is the only one who knows why Yuno is behaving strangely. In the end, everyone is reunited and single.
Moving on, let's talk about who appeared in this drama. First up, all 5 members of TVXQ played themselves. The leading actress in this is Park Hee-bon, who plays a character of the same name and claims to live by herself in the woods. But first-gen SM fans will immediately recognize her as being a member of the girl group Milk that debuted in 2001. Back then, she went by her real name, Park Jae-young. The other main actress was also a member of Milk, Kim Bo-mi, who plays Hee-bon's sister, Bo-mi. Moving on, let's talk about what we liked about it.
First up, I really like how the members portrayed themselves in this. I think their comedic moments were fun and charming and didn't feel forced. And considering they were still rookies, as not just idols but also actors, I felt like this really showed what they were capable of.
And I think since it also was kind of a low-stakes show, they were able to just have fun with it and not think too deeply about it at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so since this episode came out in the mid-2000s, the styling from that era is on full display in everything, you know, clothing, and in particular, the hair, which I absolutely loved. It's very spiky, and there's a lot of bangs happening. Like, the members of TVXQ are way more styled than Hee-bon and Bo-mi were throughout the entire show, and I think that's very funny.
Yeah, I love Jaejung's hairstyle here. Out of all of his looks from debut, his hair is my favorite. Now, some guys from this time period, the long hair just didn't work for them. I think it did really well for Jaejung, and I think part of it, though, is his long earrings that come through to where I think that that's also what makes it look so good.
So these shows are obviously not meant to be a paragon of excellent acting, but I think that's one of their biggest charms. Just in general with idol-driven TV shows, I think that is one of the most fun parts about them, that they're kind of cheesy. Or campy, depending on how you look at it. I would say that this show is more akin to like a Disney Channel episode, though I think the plot is probably closer to an ABC Family / Freeform show. Lots of cheesy grins and some slapstick humor. For example, Changmin walking by himself with his injured leg and the single crutch was easily the funniest part of the episode. He looked so silly. It was such a funny little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if he came up with it himself. So many parts of it were amusing.
I totally agree. Chungmin has these very long limbs to where when he's kind of flailing about, that sort of adds to it. He was leaning into that. So I think that was really played up well. But also, coming off of watching stuff with HOT's acting, you can tell the difference between idols acting without training versus Donbon that had a company who paid for it and they had experience, because HOT by comparison was completely amateur.
Kind of piggybacking off that, another thing that was really funny to me was that all the boys have absolutely no sense of self-preservation. They're just constantly walking into questionable situations. Changmin is a little bit better because he's the one that's questioning people and motivations, but for the most part, they're just like, a pretty girl in the woods wants to help me? Wow, there's nothing wrong with this scenario, and I love that.
But even then, though, Changmin still goes after the girls when he shouldn't. Like, when he tries to open the door, or when he's, like, chasing after Bomi, and it's like, my dude, you're injured. What are you doing trying to chase after her?
Right.
You guys got into the situation because you went around in the dark, and you're still going around in the dark without paying attention to your surroundings. As for something else I liked, I've seen the show so many times over the years, but when I watched it with JR, I was surprised by how tight the writing was. They didn't introduce unnecessary characters, settings, or details that had no resolution. I feel like the writers used their time limit well by making 2 storylines that each had something to say, and also, they were able to include multiple twists that didn't feel illogical or like they were trying to outsmart the viewer. I enjoyed how contained the writing was.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And I think some big name K-drama writers could take a few cues from this type of thing. Because being concise is lost on a lot of shows. In general, even in movies, you know, we're getting these 2 to 3 hour movies and nobody wants to make a feature-length film anymore. And it's like, you could benefit from cutting this down to an hour and a half, you know? And I think that's why it was so fun to watch this, because it was really snappy. And it didn't feel like it was lingering on anything for too long.
But I think also part of it is you knowing that, yes, there are all these details that can flesh out the world, but you don't necessarily need to have every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this just got straight to the point and gave you exactly what you needed, and then it left. And that's exactly what good writing is. It's knowing where to end it, which a lot of writers struggle with.
Mm-hmm. So another thing I really enjoyed about this episode was that Junsu and Hibon had a lot of chemistry together, and I think it's such a shame that they never had a chance to do a drama following this one, like a real proper drama with multiple episodes. Hibon continued to act well past Milk's expiration date, though her last K-drama role was in 2021. She was in a movie that was released domestically last year in 2024, but it was technically released in 2023 at festivals, so even then it's been at least a couple years since she has done anything, which is unfortunate. I don't really know what's going on there. I didn't see any updates on it, but yeah. Also, Junsu has never actually done a legit K-drama, which I didn't realize. I knew he was a musical actor and he's a very accomplished one at that, but I don't think he's ever been on TV in that capacity, and I don't think he's been in movies either, which is unfortunate, especially considering the other members of TVXQ have done acting like that.
Yeah, and I think, though, obviously comes down to preference for him, but it's also, you can kind of see it in his early years where he was going to be leaning, because he loves performing for an audience, he loves music, so it's not surprising he wound up in musical acting. But yeah, with Hibon, I didn't know who she was when I originally watched this in 2008, but now that I'm getting into first gen SM, I want to know more about her. Seeing her was really distracting for me this time around, and she went through our script because I said, I'm not too sure about a couple things, because there was another drama of the same name that came out the year before, and also there were multiple Banjun dramas, so that's understandable. And she said, you don't recognize the other girl? And I went, no, who? And she was like, that's another member of Milk. That's Bomi. And I went, what? So I was really happy to see 2 members of Milk here, but I had only known the one. Because obviously she has a very unique face to where it's very memorable, but so does Bomi. Now that I go back and look at their album cover, I'm like, oh, that's very clearly her.
Okay, finally, The last thing I really liked was that there were no heavy filters, as far as we could tell. This was before the time of everything being just 5 filters deep, and they don't look like noseless ghosts, which I have seen a lot of. I've seen idols go like, oh no, my live doesn't have the filter on it, and they go from looking like humans to looking like aliens because the filter is so heavy. And the thing is, they look great without them, you know? They don't have to have the filter on to look good. And it's nice to see, but it's also kind of sad thinking about the current state we're in, where idols feel like they have to constantly have one on.
Obviously, for this, they had makeup, but in certain close-ups, you could tell that they were humans, and I thought that was refreshing.
I agree.
So, every year, for a couple of weeks, I remember the early years of TVXQ before the split, and I go on a binge of listening to their first 4 albums and watching old shows they were on. I've talked about this before, but I remember their debut. The first day Hug appeared on Korean Music Countdown, I immediately went to Yes Asia to try to find the single. With the exception of the HOT CDs in 2024, and technically the BT21 stuff in 2020, I have never bought so much merch for a single group in 1 year. In 2004 alone, I got the Hug single, the Way You Are poster, their Triangle album, and the 2004 SM Town Summer CD and poster. They were my group. I didn't keep up with them for 2 years in 2006 and 2007 because I was too busy with school to watch TV, and I hadn't gotten into YouTube yet, but then I came back in 2008 and fell in love with them all over again and was grieved when they split. Even though things are different now, I still like to look back on their time together. Dangerous Love was my favorite of their shows for a few reasons, but in retrospect, I think I keep going back to it years later because it ends with the members reuniting, and it doesn't feel as lonely as the Vacation one or Dating on Earth.
That's very bittersweet.
It is, and that's the reason why for just 2 weeks of the year, I'm just sad.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of the old variety shows that I used to watch on YouTube, a lot of those episodes with them, they're gone. Same thing like the English subtitle Banjun drama, gone. It's not there. So the link that we're including in the description is for Daily Motion because it had it all the way through and also with English subtitles.
Yep.
So I'm glad I was able to drag more people into my misery. Moving on, let's talk about what we disliked. It's not a big deal, but something small bothered me. Some of the attributes directed to the members were based on ones fans knew at the time, but some of them felt like they were for the wrong member, such as the manager dreaming about telling Junsu not to eat his food, which is something you'd think he'd say to Changmin, as he was known for being the big eater of the group around that time. Or like when Junsu sang a song to impress Ibon, I'm surprised they had Changmin do a tongue twister instead of him belting out a powerful high note, as Triangle and Rising Sun had already proved he was capable of it.
I'd assume this was like an SBS problem, because they had a lot of episodes of this show, and so there was probably very little like turnover between episodes, so I doubt they had time for multiple edits of the script, and so SM was probably just like, this looks good enough, and it went through, you know? That's what I would assume.
Well, and also considering 2006, what was SM up to? They had bigger things to worry about. Than this.
Hilarious. So something I disliked about the show was the laugh track / live studio audience reaction. It was just annoying to me. I didn't love it, especially because it wasn't filmed on a set. So they either played the episode and fans reacted in real time and they got those reactions, or it was canned. But we can't know that. But there was a lot of laughing and gasping and, oh my, you know, type thing. And it was just like, it's a product of the time, so I'm not surprised by it. Maybe my 2025 sensibilities are holding me back from appreciating it.
I'm not sure if this is canned laugh, though, or like just a general laugh track added, as I've seen a few similar shows where it was part of a show that the audience was reacting to. I think Big Bang's Secret Garden parody had that, if I remember correctly. That was the one where they were showing the drama at the same time as the members and the audience were watching it, and so they were capturing their reactions, and they also definitely did that with HOT's mini dramas, where it would be shown as a part of a live show, and so you got to see the drama as well as how people were reacting to it. And it's the people who are in the audience specifically for this, not just the general canned laugh. But it definitely feels like it was towards the end, because the only other show I can think of that really went hard into that would be The Big Bang Theory from around that time, because that is something that whenever I watch that, it really sticks out, because like, this is not necessary.
Yeah.
The other thing that annoyed me was that they seemed to dismiss all of Yuno's behavior as just him panicking and being apologetic for breaking Jaejung's camera. For the most part, yeah, that checks out, but his actions and dialogue in the bedroom scene don't make sense. Jaejung was sleeping. He wouldn't know what Yuno was up to. Why would Yuno go into his room when he wasn't awake and able to receive that behavior? So I'm with Jaejung on this one. Also, even Yuchan seems shocked by it, and he knew what was really going on.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous, so how much can you put on the show for that? But there were other parts of the show that did similar things, like Yuchan being understandably upset that two of his members were missing, and no one really cared. Like, their manager kind of gave him updates here and there, but that was about it.
Yeah, that was the other thing, was that the two oldest members, and one of them being the leader, they were so off in their own drama that this very serious case of two members being missing in the woods in the middle of the night. Like, yeah, they were concerned, but not as seriously concerned as everyone else, like the appropriate level, because they were just too busy with themselves.
Yep. So finally, the last thing that was a little bit silly in the show was at the very end, there's a flashback to Changmin giving one of the girls his ring, even though that scene happened like 5 minutes before, you know? You definitely didn't forget that he gave her the ring. And I just was like, this is unnecessary, you know?
Back when the full thing was on YouTube and chopped into 10-minute vids, I'm pretty sure one was in one part and the other was in another. So for that time, this was helpful, I think.
Yeah. Obviously, they did not take that into account when they were creating it, but it's funny that it worked out in that way. And I was also thinking about that fact that, you know, people used to watch fairly short pieces of content cut up into like 10 parts to accommodate for YouTube's short runtime. And it made me think of how people are now doing that with Instagram and TikTok and other short form content platforms where it's even less time than that. You know, like I think TikTok is maybe up to like 3 minutes long per video. So you can get up to like, I don't know, if they did this episode, it would take how long? Maybe 40 parts, 50 parts? And I just think it's so
45
funny.
minutes divided by 3 would be 15.
Well, depending on how long you're making the chunks. I think it's so funny that we've kind of come full circle. We found the forgotten scrolls type thing, you know? And people are experiencing this stuff in the same way that people did maybe like 20 years ago. And I think that's very funny.
Moving on, let's talk about the OST. I'm very fond of TVXQ's early discography and encourage newer fans to give it a chance. So if you watch Dangerous Love and are wondering what songs appear in it, here's a list. As mentioned earlier, the Rising Sun album had come out a few months prior, and the bulk of their songs come from that. Love Is used at the beginning of the outdoor photoshoot scene. The title track Rising Sun was used twice. First, as what I assume was the bumper for a commercial break. Second is when Yuno is in the dance studio. Dangerous Mind was their manager's ringtone, and also for what I assume is a bumper for commercial break. Also by Donbonchiki, The Way You Are from their first album, Triangle, played during the indoor photoshoot scene. And as the focus was on the group, there weren't many songs from other artists. Jinsu sings Jo Jung-hyun's 1989 song, Painfully Love You to impress Hibon. During the laundry scene, Boa's Nothing's Gonna Change Korean version from her album Miracle plays. Mandy Moore's Stupid Cupid appears when Jaejung is in the bathroom, and when he's screaming while Yuno carries him out and Yuchun is eating anchovies. And at the end, during the credits, there's a clip of Chonsong Jihee's The Club music video, which we covered in season 4.
Obviously, there's all these DBSK classics in here, but the Jo Jung-hyun song was so beautiful, and I don't think I've ever come across it before, and it really stood out to me, especially with Junsu singing it. He has a lovely voice.
I'm pretty sure I've heard it remade somewhere else because I recognize the lyrics, but yeah, late 80s, early 90s has been a big year for me. Just so many good songs that I've gone into, and I'm like, oh, I know that I really need to finish the HOT project because then I can get into the 80s. And when I get into the 80s, I'm not coming back. To wrap up, I want to thank GR for watching this with me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was bittersweet watching the members interact in such a positive way, knowing the difficulty they would face pretty soon after this. It was fun though. Loved how jarring the tonal shifts were. It really played into the ridiculousness of the show, and Park Hee-bun deserves so much more love. And I really enjoyed seeing her interact with the boys.
Yeah, as you weren't familiar with Donbonchunki when they were together, I had to explain them, their dynamics, and what it was like to be a fan of them while they were still active, which was kind of fun for me because either everyone I know was there too, or they have no interest. So, as usual, I dragged you into it. And someday we'll have to dive into Milk because unfortunately they debuted at a really rough time, not just in SM's history, but also music in general. So they already had 2 strikes against them that weren't their fault.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, then please make sure to rate, subscribe, follow, and tell your friends about us. If you want to interact with us or just see more of our content, then you can follow the links in the description to our website and social media platforms. More single scoops are coming your way soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Annyeong!